Have you ever noticed this strange thing about yourself? You know something isn't working anymore. A job that drains you, a routine that keeps you stuck, a habit you've promised yourself you'd change for years. And yet, you don't. Not because you're lazy, not because you lack willpower, but because your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Today, we're going to talk about why your brain prefers comfort over change, even when that comfort is quietly holding you back. And by the end of this video, you may never judge your resistance to change the same way again. This isn't a motivational speech, and it's definitely not about just trying harder. This is about understanding how your brain actually works, especially as we get older, and why change feels so uncomfortable, so exhausting, and sometimes even scary, even when we logically know it's the right move. If you've ever said to yourself, I know I should, but I just can't bring myself to. I'm too old to change now. This is just how I am. This video is for you. Your brain's number one job is safety, not happiness. That's the first thing most people get wrong. Your brain is not designed to make you happy. It's designed to keep you alive. For most of human history, survival meant avoiding danger, conserving energy, and sticking with what worked before. So your brain learned a simple rule: familiar equals safe, unknown equals risky. Even today, your brain treats change the same way it treated a potential predator thousands of years ago. Not rationally, automatically. Now, let's talk about comfort. Comfort doesn't mean good. Comfort means predictable. You might be unhappy at your job, but you know what your day looks like. You might feel stuck in your routines, but you know how they end. And your brain loves that, because predictability reduces cognitive load, the amount of mental energy required to get through the day. Change, on the other hand, requires new decisions, new behaviors, new risks, and new uncertainty. And all of that costs energy. Your brain is incredibly efficient, and efficiency means choosing the path that burns the least fuel. That path is usually the familiar one. Think of your brain like a smartphone battery. Every decision you make drains it a little. What to wear, what to eat, how to respond, what to focus on. That's why routines feel comfortable. They run on autopilot. When you try to change something big, your job, your habits, your identity, your brain senses a massive energy demand, and it responds by saying, let's not do that today. Not out loud, but through procrastination, doubt, and discomfort. Change can feel even scarier as you get older. This is especially important if you're over 40. As we age, our brains rely more on established neural pathways, prefer efficiency over exploration, and become more protective of identity. This doesn't mean you can't change. It means your brain is asking a different question than it did in your 20s. Back then, the question was, what could I become? Now it's, what might I lose? Status, competence, stability, respect. Your brain weighs those losses heavily, even if staying the same is slowly costing you more. One of the strongest forces working against change is identity. Your brain loves consistency between what you believe, how you act, and who you think you are. So when change threatens that identity, your brain resists. You might hear thoughts like, I'm not the kind of person who takes risks. I've always been bad with technology. I'm too old to start over. These statements feel true, but often they're just mental shortcuts your brain uses to avoid uncertainty, because change doesn't just require new behavior, it requires a new self-image. And that's uncomfortable. Here's something frustrating, but important. Insight does not automatically lead to action. You can know what to eat, what to stop doing, what to change, and still not change, because decisions happen in two systems: the rational brain, logic and planning, and the emotional brain, fear, habit, and comfort. And when these two disagree, the emotional brain usually wins. That's why telling yourself, this makes sense, often isn't enough. Most people think they fear failure, but often they fear something deeper: loss of control, loss of identity, being seen as incompetent, regret. Your brain asks, what if I try and it doesn't work? And then it adds, at least now I know what to expect. Certainty, even uncomfortable certainty, feels safer than uncertain possibility. Let's clear something up. Willpower is not a personality trait, it's a limited resource. When you rely only on willpower to change, you're fighting your brain instead of working with it. That's why people feel motivated at night and stuck in the morning. Your brain resets to safety mode. Here's the good news. Your brain doesn't resist change itself. It resists threat. And the fastest way to reduce threat is to make change feel small, safe, and familiar. Instead of saying, I'm changing my entire life, your brain responds better to, I'm experimenting with something small. Small actions create new neural pathways without triggering alarm systems. Comfort isn't the enemy. We all need stability. We all need rest. The problem is when comfort becomes avoidance, when familiar routines stop protecting you and start shrinking your world. Your brain doesn't know the difference unless you show it. Here's a powerful shift. Instead of asking, how do I force myself to change? Ask, how do I make change feel safer? That might mean learning before acting, watching others succeed, taking low-risk steps, giving yourself permission to adjust. Safety first, growth second. Once you understand that your resistance isn't a flaw, but a function, something changes. You stop fighting yourself. You stop self-blaming. You start working with your brain. And that's where real change begins. Before we finish, here's a question worth sitting with. What part of my life feels comfortable, but smaller than it used to? Not everything needs fixing, but some things need honesty. If this video helped you understand yourself a little better, let me know in the comments. And if you're navigating change later in life, quietly, thoughtfully, imperfectly, you're not behind. You're human. Your brain is doing its job. And now, you know how to guide it instead of fighting it.